What's up, everybody? This is Chad Calek, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast, which I apologize that this is being uploaded a day later. I am still getting over the flu. I'm certainly not back to 100% yet. I got a pretty bad chest congestion right now, so if I'm breathing heavy or if my voice sounds really, really scratchy still, I apologize. But I did want to get this up because this episode is actually going to be on relationships in the paranormal. And this topic came about because Laura and I were having a conversation about our relationship and how the paranormal has played such a role in our relationship in a good and a bad way. In the very, very beginning, it was a bad way. And the reason I bring this up is because I hope at some point, someday, somebody does make a documentary about this topic. I felt like American Ghost Hunter touched on the family dynamic because the paranormal, the thing that people don't really get that haven't dealt with hauntings is they're not like gremlins that you can kick out of your, basement and then everything's fine. They infect every aspect of your life. A true haunting it's like seeps into your pores and it really, really messes with the family dynamic. But the dynamic, to be honest, that was even more important to me at that time was my relationship with Laura. Before, I'm sorry, before Laura and I had started dating, I was in pursuit of dating her for 2 years. Now, I say in pursuit, and Laura would laugh at that because throughout those 2 years, I always had a girlfriend of some kind, in which, while I had a girlfriend, I was on the sly asking Laura out. I guess I knew what the prize was. I knew where I really wanted to be. And I was very much the new kid for the first couple years that I entered the Tri-Center School District. Coming from a class in Alvin, Texas, my class was 300 people strong, massive, massive class. And then at Tri-Center, my high school, my class was 42 people. And that was kind of crazy because half of them were related to each other too. So it was a very tight-knit community. So it made it very difficult to fit in. That's where sports came in, because if you were good at sports, it made it a little bit easier to make friends, which thankfully I was a good enough athlete to contribute. And when it came to girls, it was just hard because when you're the new guy and you're the kid from, Southern Texas that speaks funny, at first it was just very, very difficult. But things got, better, especially between my freshman and sophomore year. I had lost like 90 pounds in 1 year. And things were looking up in the girl department. But again, my whole time I was focused on Laura. And right as Laura gave me a chance to go out with her, that was right when things began to happen at the house paranormally. And for the first year that things were going on, I didn't share anything with Laura because I kept thinking, she's going to dump me. She's already taken a bold step in giving, me, who had a reputation of being a bad boy, she gave me a chance. And when I started dating her, it was very much like the prom queen dates the bad boy. The principal at our high school used to joke that Laura and I's union represented the North marrying the South. We were just considered that far apart from each other as far as our, social status, I guess you could say. And I think there was a good reason for that. Laura was a very, very good student. She's a very good person. She was a very sweet girl to be around. She worked hard. Was honorable. And not to say that I wasn't any of those things, but I was I was a class clown, and I was an athlete that got away with stuff. So when she said yes, I wanted to be better for her. I wanted to be, a boyfriend that she would feel as proud of as I felt, to have her as my girlfriend. And She didn't demand anything at all. She never has. But I wanted to be better. I wanted to be better. I wanted her to feel like I'm really lucky to be with this guy. So the last thing I wanted to do is go, hey, now that you've taken a chance on me, guess what? My house is haunted and my whole family's freaking out. And the other night I heard my walls beating and a green hand tried to choke my sister. And my brother's guitars are playing at night. And, I mean, you can just go on and on with the stories. Pool balls are moving. I could hear a gun clicking. There's someone that walks up and down our back stairs over and over again. The stereo in the house will come on at 3:30 in the morning, just blasting and blaring and freaking waking everybody up. All the lights in a 3-story house will come on at once and shut off at once. Like, there's so many stories that I wanted to share, but I couldn't share. And it's not like I didn't test it out. I tested it out with my best friend at that time by telling him about it, in which, of course, like anybody else, until you have an experience, you're just not going to believe it. And the same thing with Justin, who was at that time, was my older brother's best friend, later became my best friend. Um, Same thing. He just did not believe until he had his own experience there. He didn't believe. So once Justin had his experience and he did believe, it just felt good. It felt good that somebody knew, because I felt like that was a big part of Justin and I's bond in the beginning, that he now shared, our secret. The thing that people thought was crazy, he knew it wasn't. So I wanted that with Laura. I wanted Laura to know that I wasn't crazy. I wanted Laura to know that I was going through really difficult stuff. And I just wanted her to know that, you know, I'm worth your time, but I don't want to live my life without sharing parts of it with you that are important. So I eventually told her. I took her to a baseball game in Omaha, Nebraska. It was a AAA Omaha Royals baseball game. And I wanted to tell her right away, and it took me about 6 innings before I could finally bring it up. And I remember, explaining to her what was going on in the house and what I think is happening. And right away feeling like, oh, this was a bad idea. This is a very, very bad idea. Because I can just see the concerned look on her face. And I read it more as concern for my mental health. Kind of like, what is going on? What did I get involved in here? Am I out on a date with the schizophrenic right now? What is happening? And I said to her, look, I understand. I know how crazy this sounds. If I was schizophrenic, I wouldn't know that it sounds crazy. I know that it sounds crazy. And I finally told her, I said, you should talk to Justin, because he thought it was crazy too. And then he had his own experience. And at that time, Laura had also visited me at my house on several occasions. And just thankfully, nothing had ever happened. There was no rhyme or reason to any of this. It would just happen when it happened. And thankfully, it had not happened, because I was always nervous. Every time she would come over, I would be nervous. Something's going to go down when she's here. And again, part of me wants her to know, but then I also don't want her to know, because I'm afraid that she'll just want nothing to do with me, because who signs up for that? Most 16, 17-year-old boys and girls are supposed to be excited about, the things in life that 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds are excited about, interested in those things, not, hey, come deal with this crazy, insane drama of this negative haunting. And by the way, you better hope this doesn't get out, because you're going to be the one that's dating the psychopath. So it was just a terrible, terrible situation. And, we talked about it on and off for a couple months. And then I finally just asked her at lunch, and it was an unfair question, because, again, unless you experience it, you can't believe it. But I finally just said, I said, so what do you think, Laura, when I tell you these stories? And she took a long pause, and she said, Chad, I know you. She goes, I know you are an honest man. I believe that you believe what you're telling me. She goes, but you can't ask me to believe all that stuff. She goes, you just can't. I'm not seeing anything, ever. And I said, I know. And she goes, well, I don't understand how come this all happens, but then when I'm over there, nothing ever happens. I said, I can't explain it either. I don't know. I go, I don't got to tell you about any of this stuff if you don't want to know about it. And I don't want it to dominate our relationship. And I don't want it to be the thing that we always talk about. But I just needed you to know what I'm dealing with, because I might be moody at times. I might be, there's a reason why I want to stay at your house so late sometimes and I don't want to go home. There's a reason why I stay after school and play basketball for 5 hours before I go home. You should just know what's going on in my life. And she understood. She said, okay. And again, I went home that night thinking she's going to break up with me very soon. Very, very soon. Thankfully, she didn't. Fast forward a few months later, Laura's hanging out at my house, and my parents decide they're going to go to Harlan, Iowa. It's a town about 20 minutes away, to get some groceries and leave Laura and I alone at the house. Well, like any 16-year-old couple, us being left alone is an exciting time. And my parents take off, they leave, Laura and I are hanging out in the living room, and all of a sudden, we hear something in the kitchen fall. Something else falls right after. Bam, bam. We both get up and walk out into the kitchen, and it's my baseball glove and my baseball hat. Now, we had a conversation this morning about this, and for some reason, I was thinking that a glass fell off too, but she said, no, it was the glove and the hat. But what was interesting, regardless, is all the windows were shut. Everything was shut. I mean, there was no breeze. There was no anything. There's nothing that could have, moved anything. And right when it happened, I did have that weird feeling like, oh, Jesus, here we go. But then after it happened, I thought, well, maybe that's it. So we go back into the living room and we continue doing what 16-year-olds do when they're alone together. And right at the beginning of us messing around, I hear something, and it sounds like when pressure shifts on a floor, like an old wooden floor, just like that. And I look over my left shoulder, and I just see this large, it looks like a shadow came off the wall. Just this large shadow. But you could see through it, though. You couldn't see through it. It looked like a shadow came off the wall. And I looked back at Laura right away to see if she sees it. And as I told her this morning, I will never forget the look on her face. I will never forget the look on her face. I've not seen that look before that moment or since. It was terrified, because every story that I had told her became real in that moment. And she saw what I saw. I looked at her. I said, Laura, look at me. And she looks back over at me. I said, what did you see? And I said, what did you see? And she goes, get me out of here now. She's wrestling with her shirt to pull her shirt back down, and I'm like freaking out because I've never seen her this scared. And she gets up, and I wrap both my arms around her, and I pick her up off the ground, and I start just moving fast as I can through the kitchen. And I'm saying the Lord's Prayer as I'm doing it. The funny thing is, I didn't even know why I was saying the Lord's Prayer. I wasn't really devout a Christian at that time or anything, but it felt holy, I guess. So I was just trying to get my baby out of there as fast as possible. We both hopped in her car and we both left. And I remember that night, I was like, so, are you done with me? And Laura looked at me and she was like, am I done with you? And I go, well, yeah, now that you know that this stuff's real and this is what I got over in my house. And she looked at me and she was like, the only thing that this did was confirm what I thought, that you're an honest man. And she's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I couldn't believe it without seeing it. And I said, you don't have to apologize for that. Like, I totally understand. Because it doesn't matter, and I really mean this. Someone could tell me the craziest story in the world. I could hear it from Justin. I could hear it from Laura. And I will believe them to the degree that I can possibly believe another human being. But until I experience it for myself, I just can't believe 100%. So I told her, you don't got to be upset, about not believing, or you don't got to apologize for that. And she goes, well, I just can't imagine what you've been going through every night. And I said, yeah, it's pretty crazy. I just want to graduate and get out of here. She said, Chad, I don't want to come back over there. And I said, you don't have to. I said, we can make this work without that. I just wanted you to know that I wasn't crazy, and you weren't, buying into something with me that you didn't plan on, that I'm a normal person. I'm just dealing with abnormal circumstances. And I think she saw that. And that was the first night that I felt like maybe we had a chance. And I think it's ironic that Laura seeing the ghost in my place, something that, would have scared away probably 99% of everybody else in the world, it took that for me to feel confident in our relationship. It's just very ironic. And I just told her, this isn't going to be forever. I'm going to be out of that house. I'm going to go to college. We'll leave this behind. Well, little did I know that I would eventually, keep chasing answers. Thankfully, she understood that side a lot more, because she understood that I was a storyteller. So I think she can clearly see why I would want to pursue answers to great questions. And, what are ghosts? Are they real? Like, these are all great questions. And I got very, very, very lucky. I'm 42 now. I've been with Laura since I was 15 years old, which is pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Because if I'd have been her in the beginning and the roles would have been reversed, I don't know what I would have done. If I'd have started dating some girl and she just started telling me these nightmare stories of these ghosts and all this stuff, yeah, it'd be really, really hard for me to not feel like I just stepped into the Twilight Zone. But it also made me just realize how special she was, that she could judge a situation based on its merit for what it was. And that was a special thing to me. And I hope that someone makes a documentary on this subject one day, because that's such a powerful aspect of negative hauntings, the damage done by the paranormal. Because the first thing the paranormal attacks is your ability to trust. Is somebody else in the house doing this? Can I trust myself? Am I crazy? When you tell a story that's so fantastic that nobody can believe it, of course, if you're in Laura's shoes, can I trust this person? The first thing it attacks is trust and the ability to actually have faith in someone's words. And that's so important when you talk about relationships. And Laura was my sunshine every day, man. That was the reason I got up. It was the brightness. It was what I looked forward to every day. And that's what was under attack the most the whole time. Because no matter how shitty things were in that house, I got to leave and go see her during the day. And that's what got me through a lot of that. But when I think about how all of that went down, there's this song that I absolutely love by Martin Sexton called Black Sheep. And there's this live version that he has where he sings this line: I thank God Almighty for giving me all of the things that I didn't want to happen at that time. Because that sums everything up. Whoever God is, he or she, I'm very thankful for the things that I was given that I didn't want to happen at that time. I didn't want Laura to see a ghost and be scared. But if that didn't happen, I don't know that we'd be here today. I'm just really happy we are. And I'm just really, really happy that we're still. And I'm just really happy. And I'm just really, really happy that as of today, we are still together. And I'm just really, really happy that we are together as of today. Thank you all for listening to the In a Crowded Room podcast. I'll be back tomorrow with more. All the best.